Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Mana on the Rocks. This week, we collaborated with our friends over on the CEDH Discord channel to do kind of a live brewing session. Today, we are bringing on a brew of Narset Enlightened Master, kind of a cool Jeskai Narset commander.
No, that's not what
we're bringing. Not? Okay, I will
No, we're bringing Narset
Exile Master.
Or Enlightened Exile. Okay. That's what it is. Okay. Enlightened Exile. There we go. We got it.
Yeah, that one. It was a lot of fun. I will give our listeners a bit of a heads up. I'm going to be editing this kind of the best way I can. We didn't record the audio for all of our participants. Kind of wanted to preserve anonymity and all that stuff, and not everyone wanted to be recorded. So the conversation's going to be a little bit stilted. But even still, it's a decent walkthrough, kind of like mine and Atlas, like brewing style, how we approach brewing and all that stuff. And I think it's a generally fun time. So why don't you go on down, get a drink with us? Yeah. So Narset Enlightened Master is a commander that I think is pretty interesting. There's a bunch of cool stuff that this card really does. One, I really like the stat line. I think 3/4 is really good in the command zone. I think given...
Especially when y'all are talking about Bowmasters, like you just were.
Absolutely, just runs into Bowmasters. But it also gives your team prowess, which I think is pretty interesting. We can lean into kind of like a small token sub-theme. It gives our already existing creatures that we want on the battlefield just extra value. And I think the attacks trigger is really good because even on like board parity or like a blank board, like this commander will likely do something. It'll like eat a removal spell, or it'll eat a removal spell out of a graveyard, and you can use it for value. Double up on your own tutors, take advantage of your opponent's tutors. Like there's still just like inherent value kind of built into the commander. But I think I also think it's just kind of neat.
It's cool. I like this card a lot. I really like 4 mana 3-pip commanders. I don't know why, they just appeal to me visually. But yeah, it's pretty neat card. I used to play Narset Enlightened Master back when that was the deck to be playing, however many years ago that was. So this is cool that they released a new version of her that's like pretty strong, pretty playable.
It's not as aggressive.
Basically, the core either. Yeah, the core of the deck I think is going to boil down to more of like a Jeskai pile type strategy. A lot of control, and then Breach is going to be your primary win condition, of course. Just because she's basically Cedh's Reclamation in the command zone, which is kind of sweet. Like even if you're putting Breach into play, you don't even need to pump her in order to cast the copy of Breach. You just have to attack, and the 3 power gets you that 2 mana enchantment. So you get to go win the game after that, which is pretty sweet. And then of course there's True Intuition pile, so you don't even really need your commander.
Sure. So let's just kind of start building out the court. So I usually just start just like 28 lands. Like we'll figure that out elsewhere.
Mana base gets tuned after you see what your pip count and stuff looks like generally.
We're doing Lion's Eye, Diamond. We got Sabine.
All of the standard Breach stuff.
Just Sabine's goodness. I haven't set up any of my packages for Moxfield yet. I should at this point, but there's some. I don't know. I just like manually going through just because
there's a package function.
Package function. You can kind of like make your own like folders and like import those as like packages. There's a bunch of stuff in Moxfield I just don't take advantage of because I'm bad.
Yeah, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not a big computer person in general, so it's cool to learn all this new stuff. I'll have to figure out what you can package and things like that. But yeah, so Joe and I were talking a little bit beforehand about what different sort of win conditions and stuff you could include. We were toying around with like possibly like some sort of Pyre of Heroes line, because you can go from Narset to Godo. But too much mana, too inefficient,
it's so
too clunky.
Funny, though. It's so funny.
It is a good meme, but this is CEDH, and we're on the record here. We have to put in some actual effort.
That's
what? Okay, I gotta pulling up Gatherer.
Let's get this rifle open as well.
Ethereal. Target creature cannot be blocked this turn. This one? Oh, and it transmutes into Godo. Okay, that's kind of
cool. Yeah.
That's actually kind of neat. And Jeskai's light on tutors, so that's actually not that bad.
Okay, cool. Let's toss that into...
Especially if our commander is attacking, the activated ability could theoretically be useful. And what's even better is it has utility. It doesn't have to be a creature you control. You can push through someone else's like Tivit if it's killing another player or something like that.
That's true.
Not that you'd want to push through their Tivit, but I guess in theory you could. Speaking of Tivit, I came up with the coolest backdoor win condition. So Tivit is in play, and you're fighting him, and of course you're going to counter their Time Seed, which means you'll be able to cast it from the graveyard with Narset.
Gotta select the right one.
But also there's this non-creature spell called Dance of Many.
Dance Battle, the Fortnite card. Dance Battle. But basically it allows you to copy any creature in play. It's like a Phantasmal Image, but it's a non-creature spell at 2 mana, so your commander can also cast it for utility, which is kind of sweet. But you can just do the Time Seed combo using it. As long as you just pay the blue every upkeep, you can counter their Time Seed and cast it, which I think is one of the neat things that Narset allows, is if your deck is set up properly, you'll be able to piece together win conditions maybe over a turn or two, using other people's libraries. Like you could even, theoretically, if someone had a Consult in their graveyard and there was a Thoracle in play, you could Dance of Many the Thoracle post-combat after you exile your library with a Tainted Pact from someone else's graveyard, which in theory is kind of neat. So there's just a lot of utility in the card. You can copy Dockside Extortionists, you can Ritual to get more mana and stuff like that, copy Draw Engines. But I think one of the neatest things about this commander, and one of the reasons I think we're going to be a lot heavier on the permission suite, aside from just being Jeskai, than one might normally be, is because you actively get rewarded for countering your opponent's good spells. True.
So that Rhystic Study that you don't want your opponent to have, like now you super want to counter it, because next turn you attack, and as long as you have cast a cantrip, you get to have a copy of their Rhystic Study, and they will never get that study back.
Another bit of counter magic that this deck is actually going to be able to make use of is Stubborn Denial.
This card is so cool.
Any excuse I get to toss a Stubborn Denial into a list, I'm already for, because you can cast this, hold open a blue, and basically have a second offer, but you don't have the downside. Because of the way the stack works, you cast the Stubborn Denial, Prowess trigger resolves above it, so by the time Stubborn Denial resolves, so long as the Narset's still on the battlefield, it is a full-on negate. It's not a force spike effect. One of my favorite little techs. We could, in theory, also make use of Bolt Bend, but I don't think we need Bolt Bend in this deck. I think deflecting swap plus the other stuff we're going to be doing is going to be more than enough.
Bolt Bend seems a little too cute, especially when her power would already have to be up in order to get third action.
True. So right now, I'm just building out the counter magic suite. Nothing particularly crazy in here. Got both forces. We got a Mindbreak Trap, Flusterstorm. Stubborn Denial is the only kind of quote unquote cute one. Mana Drain is in here because it is a good card. I like Mana Drain.
We can cut it later.
We can cut it later if the pips end up being a little bit more intensive. Offer is just a default in any deck I play now. Offer is one of the go-tos for me. Swan Song as well. And
Mental Misstep.
Flusterstorm's already in there. Oh, it's already in there. That is the third counter spell that I put in. That's the other thing that I notice while doing any deck tech or any deck build bit by bit is I go through things in packages, if only because I like to remember things. But you get to be very intimate with the counter magic suite, in my opinion. I don't know. I usually start off with tossing my win cons first, and then afterwards it's tutors, then interaction, then mana. Usually in some order like that. I don't know, I'm very very particular with how I build the list.
We're definitely gonna want to be on that new counter spell in this list. Yes. The one that counters
Scolding. So we talked about it a little bit in this week's episode. I'm a big fan of this card. This card's really, really good. I think this list is going to be able to make use of it very well.
Better than I thought it was going to be after people were explaining it to me. I did not think it was going to be all super good at first.
It's a good card. It's a good card.
Yeah, it's very good.
Go for it.
I was just going to say, we haven't quite gotten to the cool stuff yet, but we have to remember, I will talk about the sweet new tech from Lord of the Rings that we're going to be putting in there. That is not
just a counter magic piece.
Stern Scolding, yeah. But basically, literally yesterday, they spoiled this card. This card that I think is going to be sweet for the deck. And it's really interesting because Joe and I had been talking about what to do, and I was like, all right, I have to start thinking about ideas. And then I was looking through the spoilers, and this card literally just presented itself to me. It's called Glamdring. It's Gandalf's sword from the lore, if any of you are big Lord of the Rings fans. It's a 2-mana legendary equipment artifact. It says, equipped creature has first strike, which is good for our commander. It gets +1/+0, which is good for our commander, but not just +1/+0, +1/+0 for each instant sorcery card in our graveyard. And since we're kind of like a pseudo graveyard deck, because we're going to be doing breach stuff and fueling it anyways, casting off counter magic, our commander gets real big real fast, which means that we can cast basically anything as long as we get this equipped to our commander from anyone's graveyard that's a non-creature spell. And it also has the additional upside of whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to that damage without paying its mana cost. So you can get an extra tutor off for free, in addition to the fact that you're casting a tutor from someone else's graveyard. So you could, in theory, you could go to your attack trigger, you copy someone's demonic tutor, you cast that, you put something in your hand, and then you could go cast an Enlightened tutor and put something on top. Or even cooler, if it is a two-hand tutor that you're copying, you could cast the copy tutor, or cast the copy of the tutor from someone else's graveyard or your own, and then put the card in your hand. And then if it's an instant or sorcery, you can just cast it for free from your hand on the Glamdring trigger, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah, you'd mentioned this card, and then I reread it, and I'm like, oh shit, this is really good for what we're doing. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think someone had a comment actually.
So, Seize the Day is one of the cards that is absolutely good. So that's going to lean into some of the spice that we get into. Is I really wanted to do a lot of extra combats in this deck, because any extra combat like instants or sorceries, at a certain point we essentially start doing like a think kind of Edric style gameplay, where we're going to keep attacking, we're going to keep exiling instants and sorceries from our graveyard. Those instants and sorceries could be extra combat steps, and we just keep going until either one person's dead or we amass enough value that we're going to get there eventually in like a turn or two. But Seize the Day is a cracked card in this deck, in my opinion. Because after
Joe was like extra combat, and I was like, oh, Seize the Day.
After this is the League of Legends print stays in. I was just going through Scryfall. I'm just like, what are additional combat cards that we can play? And I saw this. I'm like, well, this just goes in immediately.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. You can like go crack your LED, discard this and your breach, and then attack and cast your breach if you wanted to, or something else. But yeah, it's really neat. It's definitely extra utility, which is always strong.
It is.
My one sad thing about this card is that it doesn't have like a 1-card combo or something like that. Like there's nothing, at least that I've been able to identify. There's not, maybe some of y'all in here could think of something where it's like, yes, the 1-card combo or the near 1-card combo that just gets us there. Closest thing I got was Intuition.
Yeah, it's just because just raw Intuition. You can, if Narset's on the battlefield and we're pre-combat main phase, we can cast Intuition, get a pile, swing in, cast the Intuition again because we're above 3 CMC, or we're on 4 toughness. 4 toughness, Jesus Christ. We're on 4 power, so we can just immediately flash back the Intuition and just get double Intuition piles. Even if it gets countered, we can still do this.
Well, Safine's Reclamation is one of those, so as long as you got 5 mana too, like you're just getting there, right?
I mean, I think it's an attack trigger, not a dominant.
Glamdring. No, I think they were asking about Glamdring, right?
Double Strike would trigger.
Yeah, Glamdring triggers twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually, because we talked about it and we decided that like a light Stoneblade package is sort of where we kind of want to take this, because we're like almost Voltron, sort of like old Narset, not nowhere near as hard in, because we have an actual win condition that's not just hit people for 3 damage at a time. But I was thinking about it, and so I was trying to think if there were any effects that were good enough that you could give her double strike with because of Glamdring, but I don't know of any that would be good enough on their own, because I don't know, I hate playing bad cards, and so like one of the things that I enjoy is like Glamdring is sweet even if it's not on your commander, because you can staple it to like what's the breach fuel 1 mana
Darcy.
You can staple it to a Darcy, just get in there and just hit someone for at least 4, and then you can cast something from like an Intuition for free from your hand, which is super sweet.
Update on just what I've just been kind of like tinkering in, just putting in just stable stuff. I've got most of the mana, most of the fast mana figured out. Do we want to be on Mox Diamond in this list, do you think? Oh wait, we're breach deck. We want to field the yard. Yeah, of course we're on Mox Diamond.
Absolutely. it makes colored pips. It casts your
And
commander
then I'll
a turn
put
faster.
Arcane Signet in here as well. I'm not super convinced that we're going to need Arcane Signet.
I think it's good enough because
I like at least one
it's
2-mana
gonna
rock.
Ancient Tomb is going to cast it on turn 1 as well.
True.
So that will be in the mana base when we get around to tweaking that.
And then the other things I just put in just like all the basic draw engines. We got Ristic, we got Remora, Esper Sentinel, Archivist, Ranger Captain. I don't really count this as a draw spell, but I just kind of put it in here because it gets our stuff. And then Darcy, I think, absolutely goes in this deck. We care about attacking.
Yep.
We like that. We like that great. Flyer. Narset pumps the flyer. We'll get in there for more damage. More staples with Pasta and the silence effects. So Grand Abolisher and Silence. Just good cards. Just good cards.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things that I was kind of toying around with is because our one and only win condition, more or less, is going to be Breach. And other than that, it's going to rely on a little bit of like finagling on the pilot's part to manipulate other cards into other people's graveyards to be able to squeak out like a Thoracle or something like that. Or like copy someone's Tivit and steal their Time Sieve or whatever. But assembling a win condition that way, I was thinking about this, and I haven't actually mentioned this to Joe yet, but it was a little bit of like a small Rector package. Because our commander's big enough and she gives our whole team prowess, we can play like an Anger of the God style effect. Of course, not Anger, because that exiles the Rector, but you could play something that could shoot the Rector to put Breach into play. Which would also sort of line up with Jeskai Ascendancy. Could be your secondary fetch target, because since we want to fuel our own graveyard at least a little bit, Emery is really strong because it'll put cards in there that we can just cast. In addition to the fact that she'll give us additional jump starts when it comes to like casting an LED from the graveyard or something like that. She can just give us additional utility. And so if in theory, haven't locked it in yet, but we could put a Jeskai Ascendancy in there as well. So then you have 2 targets to fetch. Not only does it does the Ascendancy go infinite with Emery, which gives you like a sort of second backup combo, but it's also
just a good value card.
It's also a good, it just allows you to loot every time you're casting these cantrips to buff your commander. It means that every non-creature spell you cast is going to pump your commander by 2, so you could cast a 4 cost from a graveyard, which, while not super important, is like reasonable to consider, I guess. Like you might run into something where it's like, oh man, I really just like, I know it kills my commander, but we really need to cast this Wrath effect right now or we're gonna die. So that type of thing might be definitely notable.
So I think for the like Anger of the Gods type effect, I think Brotherhood's End is probably going to be the one I want to go with. Just in terms of like the 3-mana stat line. There's a world where we trade this out for like an instant speed option, maybe like a delayed blast fireball, because that does. No, if with Narset out, it doesn't kill the Rector, which is a requirement for the card.
Well, delayed blast fireball doesn't hit.
It also doesn't hit our own guys. That's true. So something like what's the 2-mana one? Cinderclasm. That doesn't kill the Rector. Even if just because the prowess trigger above it is
prowess trigger.
Yeah, it's gonna bring it up. So I think that puts us.
So it has to be 3, but that's notable because it kills everything that's relevant.
And
because almost every relevant thing in the format.
What are like the 4 toughness things that it misses? Linvala and Winota. Winota and Linvala. Tivit, Kenrith.
Seaborn Muse.
Endurance.
But if they ain't got no Thrasios, that Seaborn Muse don't matter as much. Yeah, so those are... we have to be on a Braid, of course, because it blows up Grafdigger's Cages, which we need gone for Breach. It blows up Draenith Magistrates, which we need gone for Breach. And even though it doesn't deal 4 damage, it does... blow up artifacts, of which Soulless Jailer is one, which is something we have to consider since we're casting a lot of non-creature spells from Exile, and the Jailer will stop that.
Are we still going to be on a Braid even if we want to be on Soul Partition? Do we?
I don't see why not.
Just the density?
It flickers your Dockside Extortionist. It's just extra density of removal plus flexibility seems strong. We can always trim it later.
Flicker Dockside. Are we on Kitten?
As much as I hate to say it, I do love me some Displacer Kitten stuff, but I don't think the card has any place in this list. I don't think so.
I don't think we're doing enough ETBs to make it matter.
No, I think the best thing it's going to do is act as like a ritual or cost reducer when you are casting things and flickering your rocks.
Which like it's cool value, but I don't think there's any like decent win line. Like I guess we can force like a Spellseeker line in but that feels weird.
No.
Like there's no Entomb, there's no like Noxious Survival, there's no like Detutor or anything that we can like get off of it. There's no good green spells that we can pay off for. I still think we go on Spellseeker just because it's a good value card. Okay, so I mean we're at about 80 cards right now in the list, and we're already it's already feeling like it's starting to take shape. I feel like we have a lot of the basics cleared out. Do we want to toss in like an Aggravated Assault and like sort of Feast and Famine into the deck as well?
Okay, so you mentioned those to me, but I know my question is like I don't know what that actually does. That's my question, right?
It's infinite combat.
Aggravated Assault's going to give you an extra combat, but sure if you're connecting. But I think like it. I don't know. It's so finicky, and our swords, they're just better swords, right? So like Feast and Famine is fine, but discarding cards from opponents is generally a bad thing. And yes, we might be able to cast it, but also they might just pitch their Hullbreaker or their Broodlord and then reanimate it on their turn.
I got the juice. I got the sauce.
You got the juice?
Instead of playing sort of Feast and Famine, we're gonna be playing frickin' Jite.
Jite's great.
I like that card. It's really good. It's really good.
I was playing a game with my friend's 5-color Sisei deck literally right before I came here, and Jite single-handedly won me that game. I activated Sisei, someone flashed out a Containment Priest, and I was like, that is fine. It resolves. Kill it. And they were like, that was my response.
And that's the main reason I want. That's the main reason I wanted it on here is because we can swing in with Narset. It's an attacks trigger. Regardless, we can still we can still set
after
up.
the first combat,
we can just set up with it.
After the first combat, it doesn't matter. You can also start it early, like Topher was saying. You can start it early by sticking out on something small, like a 1 or 2 mana guy. Get in for damage. Doesn't matter if the guy dies. Like your Esper Sentinel dies, big whoop. And then you get the counters on the Jite, or you get the counters on it early, slap it on your Esper Sentinel, and then going into each person's turn, you're like, in your upkeep, I would like to pump my guy by 2. Please pay 3. And it's just like color shifted Kenrith pack, more or less.
This was an idea. I was talking with one of our buddies, Justin, earlier, and we were going over the possibility of like haste enablers and maybe Myrel, just because you can kind of scale up the Myrel attacks. What do you think about that?
I hate using Myrel as a win condition, unless you're like on a stacks build, because those tokens are artifacts. Like you have to pass the turn. It's only going to make 1 token for the first time, and the second time it might make 2 or 3. But then like after you do that, you're still probably passing the turn unless you were just winning as a grand abolish effect anyways, which means if you're passing the turn, that Dockside is now making a lot of fucking tokens.
Well, hold on. Are they tokens they make Myrel?
Yes, they're artifact soldiers, because they're from the Urza's the Brothers War set. So they're
okay.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
What up?
For sure. That is a good question,
an idea,
and I did think about it. And I'm totally down to play it. I'm just really confused about the utility. But I was confused about the utility when I was thinking about it. Right, so like Twin Flame is good, but our commander doesn't have a mana sink, so Twin Flame at Dockside is usually going to be meh. And my main concern is like if Twin Flame is the target that we happen to have in our graveyard, and we go to attack, so we put it on the stack, which we can do, and then we copy it with Dualcaster Mage, which we can do because we'll flash it out. Our attacks have already been declared, so it can't catch anyone by surprise. I mean, I guess it is just a super compact 2-card win condition, which is there's something to be said for that.
I guess. Well, no, because you recast the Twin Flame.
Yeah, but your attackers have already
been declared.
Because Narset she's attacked. Yeah. So you have infinite dual casters, but they're just sitting there.
It's not a Magecraft. It's not a Magecraft trigger. It specifically has to be cast. If it was Magecraft, if it was Magecraft, oh my lord,
gas, straight fire.
God, that'd be so good. Yeah, I think I feel like it falls into like the Dimir, like you have to play Thoracle Consultainment Pact of like what else are you doing?
I don't disagree though. Like, but Dualcaster itself has amazing utility, and Twin Flames, it's fetchable with Spellseeker. So I guess like you do even have a tutor for it. Like you could go on Step Through and have a wizard cycling effect too. I guess, but
is Emery a wizard?
It's worth
Emery
considering.
Is a wizard.
I
think we're going on Step Through.
What was your other idea? Yeah, 3 fairy, right? Yeah,
most certainly.
Which gets you there sure. My big question about that is like the reason that three fairy I think is good in a lot of the like Esper decks and whatnot that run it is because it draws your library and you can cast Thoracle, right? Or like you can time save people out once you hit a certain number of like fast mana to cast your Tivit. I don't know, like I guess you could breach, but all the cards will be in your but you crack Lion's Eye Diamond, so it goes to the graveyard. So I actually guess that makes sense. That makes sense. You could do that, and it's another silence effect, which it just becomes ever more important. I personally hate the card 3 Fairy because if I have to pass the turn for whatever reason, as Channel has gotten more prevalent, like somebody's gonna touch the Spirit Realm or whatever, and now you have I pass, and the person to my left wins.
Spirit Realm.
Because you can cast it with your commander after you touch something.
We absolutely can.
But 3 Fairy is it is another silence effect, which is just so important. Like these days, if you're not trying to win with protection, I feel like your win is just like, I'll see if anyone has it. Like you're just force checking.
It's so naked. I guess in a sense, I would say that 3 Fairy is going to be more useful than Twin Flame.
It is a better 2-card combo, but Dualcaster is more tutorable, and Dualcaster has a higher utility, and Twin Flame on its own technically does do more, because even if your Narset's the only thing in play, you could target your Narset just to cantrip.
Dualcaster's also like a 3-mana counter spell that's uncounterable.
It is. It also it gives you extra interaction through a deafening silence if you're having to play a mid game. It gives you that extra spell where they're like, haha, I got you, and you're like, actually, this Dualcaster mage does otherwise. So I feel like if we're gonna play a second combo, it's Dualcaster Twin Flame, because Spellseeker can grab half of it. Step Through grabs the other half. I think that is probably. I noticed we're not on Gamble yet. I know that we.
I haven't got myself there to most of the tutors. We should be on Gamble though.
True, because it gives us all the red mana.
Just because we'll also get to recast immediately off of Narset's Narset.
Yeah, so you're looking at 6 cards and you have a
buttload of mana. You have to use the mana immediately. There's no way to bank it. But that's okay. That's fine. Another idea. How do we feel about loot instant and sorcery? So Faithless Looting, Thrill of Possibility, those kinds of cards. The downside is Narset does have to cast them, so you do have to pay the additional costs on a Thrill of Possibility. But it does fill our graveyard for Breach. It's a free quote unquote effect that we can get off of Narset attacks on neutral boards. I think I like Faithless Looting as an idea because it does set up for the attack. At the very least, I think the line of Faithless Looting, discard the intuition, swing with Narset, get the intuition is pretty valuable. I think it's interesting at the very least. No, that's a good idea. That's an interesting space. So Narset, and I'll pop it up big. 1 in Jeskai for a 3/4 human monk. Creatures you control have prowess. Whenever Narset Enlightened Exile attacks, exile target non-creature, non-land card with mana value less than Narset's power from a graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Yes. It also incidentally will hate out any opposing Breach players because we just attack and then just start eating people's graveyards. Which is interesting. We don't have to cast the copy if we don't want to. No reason, unless there's a Draenith out, there's no reason we wouldn't. I think a majority of the time, but it still hates on the graveyards incidentally. No, we don't have an outlet in the command zone.
God, I wish.
It's the one thing I think this card is missing is some sort of outlet, but I don't think this card needs an outlet. I think we can just focus on doing other stuff. Speaking of other stuff, we currently have Glamdring and Umezawa's GT as our equipment package. Is that worth the slot for Stoneforge, or do we want to expand the package or cut the Stoneforge entirely? Where did I put it? I think I put it in.
I feel like if you're going to expand it, the only other one worth including is Sophie.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
But I don't know that Sophie's even worth including.
But decent.
I don't know that Stoneforge Mystic is worth it because the card on its own is.
Yeah, and I think Glamdring and Umezawa's GT are just higher value, and we're going to get more immediate benefits from them. So I don't know if we'll need Sophie. I'll move that out, and we'll move the friggin' Stoneforge Mystic to the considering board. I think. I think
here's my
go for your spice. I'm here for it.
I was gonna say my spicy suggestion: pull from eternity.
I dig it.
Yeah, it's one of those weird ones that it's a meme, but also it seems it might actually be good enough in this deck because you go and you exile your Breach to cast your Breach, and then like for whatever it gets blown up, it gets bounced, like whatever, and then you have a second shot. Like you're not just hoping somebody else at the table's playing breach and it goes to their graveyard and it's there on your turn. You can pull from Eternity your own breach. You can pull for Eternity your own Savine's Reclamation. The card seems like it's really useful. It's an instant, so you don't have to worry about playing it on your turn and wasting a spell cast. Or hell, it's a 1-mana spell. You can cantrip.
We can pull from Eternity back the flashback Seize the Day.
Hey. That's a pretty cool play.
That's tech. That's what we call in the business tech.
It's also, what's even sweeter about this card is it doesn't have to be a card that you own. You can pull other people's cards from Exile to their graveyards, so you can cast them with Narset. It's target face-up card that's in Exile into its owner's graveyard. So if somebody pitches something super good to, like, pitches a Cyclonic Rift to a Force of Will early in the game, and you're like, man, I really need to bounce one specific thing, you can pull from Eternity the Rift and go to attacks, and then exile the Rift and cast the copy, which seems like it could be useful.
I do like that a lot. It also niche upside for being on Pull from Eternity. We can nab things surgically from Douthie piles if we need to. I don't think that's like that's
True.
That's not reason to play Pull from Eternity. That's not reason. But it is a cool upside.
Oh my god, you pitch your LED to a Douthie early game and then you pull it back later and you're like, haha.
I mean, it's
oh man,
it's
that's
a cool
sweet.
Like it's a benefit to the card, not an argument for it, I would say.
Yeah, but it's
still pretty cool. It's still pretty cool.
Holy shit, you do! Yeah.
It's a lot of upside. It's a lot of upside. I think this deck's gonna be able to make a breach stick very hard in a lot of different ways.
Oh my god, I love it. I just want to make sure we're on Wheel of Fortune, just so you have a confirm after you finish your breach.
Yeah, let's get on Wheel of Fortune. Do we want to go on Windfall as well? I don't think I like Windfall here.
Windfall's not great, but it's also... Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. That's true, because you have to have at least one card
really
in hand.
Doesn't.
No, other people just need cards in hand.
And a player. Yeah, a player has to have.
That's true. Okay, well, I guess Windfall brings up a question that we should probably start figuring out. Like, how faster is this deck trying to go? Because I think we have about 12 slots left in the deck. I feel like we either need to be filling those slots with cards that are either going to make us go faster, protect our win better, or slow the game down harder. So, like, for soft stacks effects, like, we're already on, like, Drannith Magistrate and, like, I guess Ranger Captain Silence sort of as pseudo effects. So what about cards like Lavinia, for example? Do we want to go on Lavinia? I think we should probably be on Containment Breach just because I think the card's really well positioned right now.
The card doesn't affect us literally at all.
We do not care about this card whatsoever. So I think that's an immediate upside for it. I don't hate the idea of Lavinia. It stops decks that are faster than us. And lets us develop a little bit more, and it's completely asymmetrical. I just don't think we. I think if we're
thinking about Oracle, but
it's an interesting idea because I think it lets us.
You can take consults. You can take someone's consult and then cast your Thoracle second main phase.
It's really conditional. That's conditional.
And the card's super dead. I don't like that idea here. Thoracle's a card. Anyone who knows me knows that, but like. And Jeskai, it just feels like we're reaching at straws. Yeah. Because if your Brain Freeze is milling your whole library, you're already winning the game.
Yeah, and I think it's the weakest way for us to confirm a kill. I think Wheel of Fortune is just going to get us there faster. True. Yeah. No. Exactly that. I feel like at that point we've assembled enough Storm that we can do whatever, and we have enough mana that we can just go Brain Freeze 3 times. We have at least 7 cards left in the library, hopefully a bit more, and then just Wheel of Fortune just to knock everybody out.
And if you have to exile your Wheel of Fortune to a breach line earlier, you can pull from Eternity.
We absolutely can. I don't know about that. I think in this deck in particular,
I've already got my foil copy.
They are $7 according to Moxfield, so that's interesting. Okay, so Alice? What are the areas that you think this deck needs to be improved by right now?
So it's going to be a mid-range deck just on the premise of the fact that your commander's 4 mana and it has to attack. Like, you are not going to be winning before turn 3 at the absolute earliest. If you get off an Intuition on turn 2, you probably won't have the mana to go off until turn 3 anyways. Which leads me to a point is we might want to go up extra fast mana anyways. Like, I'm not sure. I can't read exactly what the rocks are. That's just my eyesight's bad.
Yeah, that's it. That's it for rocks. Like it's all.
So we're missing a.
We are missing. I was gonna wait to add in the mox opal to see if our artifact count got high enough to warrant it. I think it works enough in this deck.
So statistically, at 11,
okay,
it's worth it, and we're at 12, including Mopal, so we're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, Rite of Flame seems really good. Another card I was thinking about was like it's possible just because these 1 mana spells will help you cast those 3 mana spells, which will be really useful in the mid game, like we were talking about. Some other cards I was talking about were Get Probe, gives you a card, gives you information, gives you a card in the graveyard, and you can do it again later, so you can see 2 players' hands. And then Rite of Flame, I think, was mentioned just a second ago. That card's great. Or instead of Rite of Flame, the other option, because we're in 3 colors and because I have a soft spot in my heart for this card, is it's not Trash for Treasure. What's the one that makes a treasure token for 1?
Oh, Strike It Rich.
Yeah,
I think Strike It Rich is pretty. We can play some Eternity yet.
Yep. Always an
I think we'll take out Strike It Rich, or take out for Strike It Rich. I like that better.
I'm on my favorite brewing buddy, EDH Rec, just because sometimes casual players point out gas cards that CDH players miss. In this case, a Filter Out seems like it's going to be really strong.
Seems crazy here. I like that here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Like, our commander's big enough that I'm not super scared about blockers, especially when like you can just attack the Tymna deck or whatever, right? And make your guy bigger by cantripping. Like, they're going to be scared you have an instant, so they aren't going to block with their Crom. But the main thing that I think Filter Out does is it gives us that secondary payoff where, all of our rocks are tapped to develop, and then you can filter out, get all your rocks back to hand, cast them, and have like a bunch of prowess triggers, and then you could like go to combat, which is, I don't know, seems like it could be worthwhile, especially if we end up sticking on the Jeskai Ascendancy package. It allows you to see a lot of cards.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. How did we miss this card?
What about Wind's Rebuke?
I think that card is a little too cute. Like I said, I'm not really concerned about. I wouldn't be concerned about blockers. I think the only decks that would realistically be able to provide adequate blocks for more than like a turn or so that could kill your commander would be like a 5-color value or like Tivit. I don't think that any other decks, for the most part, are going to be able to sustain consistent blocking, especially when you can play around it by having different opponents to attack and like cantrip in order to kill their commander. Not their commander, but whoever they block with.
I said Winds of Rebuke, no, Winds of Change.
What's the one that I'm thinking of?
Winds of Rebuke is the
Exile.
I think so. Yeah, Winds of Rebuke is the one in a blue, return target permanent, and then everyone mills 2 cards.
Oh, that card.
I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like,
I was thinking about the overload Exile card. It's Winds of Change,
something like that.
Yeah.
I maybe Winds of Abandon, but no, I think Winds of Rebuke is pretty decent. It disrupts top deck tutors.
Yeah, I think Winds of Rebuke is good.
And also, it feels literally everybody's graveyard for Narset. I think it's decent value.
Yeah, I think that card seems fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because Breach exists.
Yeah. I think if we want, so my thing is I think this might compete for the same slot as, because it's non-land, so it functionally it'll tempo anything out that we care about and probably fights for the same slot as a Braid, and I don't know if I want to lose a Braid in this deck just because I think I'd rather get rid of the thing at least more permanently than a bounce spell, which can just come down the next turn. Like, if we need to kill a Drannith Magistrate, I'd rather just kill it rather than bounce it. I guess in a sense, if we get rid of it at a timely fashion, it's just as good, but I don't know.
We're a Breach deck, so we're going to be winning the game in 1 turn anyhow. So I think that having the extra removal spell for XYZ, especially since the Braid doesn't hit enchantments and Rule of Laws exist, like, that seems like a great thing to be playing. It just removes any stacks piece that we care about, or like you said, it hates top deck tutors, and then a Braid is just good value too because it kills Drannith Magistrates, which we also dislike.
So then in that case we're very heavy on the removal package, which I kind of like a lot.
It's good. It's good.
We are on.
Counterbalance is sick. Yeah, exactly. So you get a second copy of Counterbalance. Also, Rector can get it, so you can develop a stacks piece, which is notable.
I hate it. I think it's a decent stacks piece that we can make use of. Counterbalance.
And top is just good in general, especially playing things like Winds of Rebuke, and it feeds our artifact count early, helps you filter top decks. So it seems really strong. My one concern about this list so far is that aside from like Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora, which obviously are like the best draw engines in
We're
the format,
very low on draw.
For a deck that wants to venture into the mid game, our commander is very dependent on being able to adequately answer a threat and then capitalize on it ourselves. But we have no way of refueling after we answer a threat to answer the next threat until we've been able to develop. And sometimes we won't get the opportunity to do that. So, like, I don't know if there are some other draw engines that we've missed that we could consider including. I don't know if we're on like I see Archivist.
We're on,
but like Fairy Mastermind is like it's not great, but it does give you something. If other people are on engines,
because we're on Ledger Shredder as well, but that's not advantage. That's filtering, and we're a breach deck, so it's kind of why I like it here. I feel like anytime.
Yeah, Shredder.
I feel like anytime we're on any sort of like breach deck, Shredder is automatically included, and especially when we're on a commander that functionally gives us an extra copy of breach in the command zone. Shredder is just crazy value. Yeah, and that's
absolutely.
I wonder how much more we need to. I feel like we need to enable Narset slightly more.
I have found the answer. I have found the answer. It is called Vega the Watcher. It says whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, draw a card. It's a 2/2 flyer for 3 mana. Every time you attack with your commander and you cast a spell, which you are casting the copies off the commander, you get to draw a card at the same time.
Yo, this card's gas.
And it curves into her perfectly.
This card is gas. I don't think we need Simian Spirit Guide here.
I don't hate the idea of Guide. If we have the slot, I think we could definitely add it just because it makes it easier to cast our commander earlier. But I don't... Personally, I think we're sort of building this deck to tailor to the way that Joe and I play. And neither of us are really like super fast players. We're more mid-range control type players, so...
Yeah, there's no reason for us to, like, we're not trying to, like, get a turn 2 breach out. We're trying to answer a threat, stick our Narset, get a value, and then go for, like, a double intuition line or, like, a breach backed up with attack trigger line. Oh, actually, so we're on Dual Caster Twin Flame. However, I feel like there's going to be a lot of situations where we need to get our attack trigger off in order to win. I guess we're on, like, just normal breach stuff, so we can kill that way after post-combat.
What about Lightning Bolt? Lightning Bolt. 9 mana, you can win post-combat. Easy.
9 mana, you can win post-combat. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So you pay the strive cost on your Twin Flame, and then you dual caster it with the Lightning Bolt on the stack as well. And you can change both of the copies to Dual Caster Mage because the changing targets overrides the strive restriction of casting the spell targeting different things. So it's 3, or maybe is it 6? Maybe it's 8 mana. It's 3 mana for dual caster, 5 mana for it's 9 because it's 3 mana for dual caster, 1 for bolt, and 5 for strike.
Yeah, so it's 9.
So 9, but it does win the game.
It does win the game. Okay, I think that's reason enough for us to put bolt in. My issue with that is we need 9 mana, our commander out, and those 3 specific cards in hand.
No. Actually, even better. It does technically win the game during combat because you can cast. It's not an alternative cost, striving an additional cost. So you can cast it. It's only 7.
Wait, but it's on attacks triggers. So don't all of our creatures declare attacks at the same time?
Yeah, but you put the bolt on the stack, so it's 7 mana.
So I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Okay.
You put your thing on the stack, you pay the strive cost, so you're actually paying 3 for a quote-unquote free spell. So it's only 7 mana, which seems niche case, but like I could see a world where you intuition pile for those cards.
Okay. Okay, well, we are over 100 cards at this point. I'm totally fine to just keep jamming cards in here that we think are good and then try and cut down, because I think the cut down is where a lot of the hard decisions and the identity really get formed. Like right now we're looking at a pretty like decent pile. We're very heavy on the control elements, which I think I really like. I think I still would like to see, I don't know what other draw engines we could be playing. I feel like I want something else as well.
We're also not on Pyroblast or Reb, which is unfortunate.
I'll toss in Reb real quick.
I think we want both because they blow up Rhystic Studies that we can cast. Pilfer?
Oh, Ghostly Pilferer.
Oh, Ghostly Pilferer.
Whenever opponent casts a spell anywhere from other than their hand. It's opponent, yeah. No, and I think Vega the Watcher functions there. That Vega is a sick card. I actually like this tech. That's good. I don't think we need to be on Ghostly Pilferer. I don't necessarily think that card was good. Okay,
it's not an engine, but what about the card See the Truth? Or is that too cute?
I know
So
exactly
it's a 2
what this
mana
card is.
Anticipate. So it's going to look at the top 3 cards and put a card into your hand for 2 mana. But if it's in your graveyard and you cast it with Narset, which you can do without any pump on attack, you get to just draw 3 cards. Sorry, put 3 cards into your hand. You do not draw the cards.
It does work around Bowmaster.
That
it does. That's crazy. Okay, I like the idea. I think we're gonna end up cutting it, but let's keep tossing it onto the pile.
In a similar vein, Ancestral Visions is a really weird card that also draws you 3 cards.
That card's sick here. I don't think
is
so.
There?
2 Scryfall. 2 Scryfall. Text line. Spend. Red. Red. Vision. Draw 3. Delay. Fear Charm. Best of Moments. Glimpse of Tomorrow. This is a not quite what we're looking for. Inevitable Betrayal is a interesting bribery effect. I don't hate that. Lotus Bloom I think is a little too cute. We can restore balance. There's that.
No.
No, Resurgent Belief I don't think is necessary because we can just get the Breach out of our graveyard with an attack trigger anyway. Soul Talisman is bad. Wheel of Fate.
Oh, Actual Factual Suspend seems pretty good as far as a removal spell. Like, I don't know what we change for it, but I think we can consider playing it.
Yeah, I'll toss that in. Why Suspend?
Because it exiles the card. So it gives you another way to get around stuff, and also, if you exile your own thing 2 turns later, you get to draw a card with Vega.
I guess, yeah, that's fair. No, that is
it's a bad reason,
but it is a reason. Yeah, all the rest of these cards are. I think that's too.
Oh, that's. That's actually kind of cool. I like that a lot.
I think if we do that, I think I'd really like to be on one more discard effect, so like Thrill of Possibility. Because I want to be able to set up the graveyard a lot easier. Yeah, and that's kind of my issue is like without like a easier dedicated way to get this into the graveyard, it feels really bad to draw and play. So I'm not super big on this. I think Ancestral Vision at least lets us be able to turn 1 it and then get a refill later on, unless there's a Drannith that comes down, which is very possible. But I feel we're also very equipped to handle Drannith in this deck. Like, we have an overwhelming amount of ways to get that card out of here. Yeah, I think I've talked myself out of Wheel of Fate. I think you all have helped me talk myself out of it as well. I don't like that card here. No. I think it's a sweet idea. Because like it's one of those things that when you're brewing, like when you bring up one card and it seems like a good idea, you immediately look for the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth copy of it, and like or like a similar vein in which that this card functions. Because like the theory, the logic there is solid. Like if this one card seems like it's a decent fit, well, clearly the card that's like 80%, 75, 70% of the way there is going to also like fit a similar feel, right? Like the idea makes sense. I just think it's a little cute. Next we got Shredder. Go for it. Hit us with it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Seize the Day and Seething Song. No,
because Narset exiles the card and then casts copies of it.
Yeah, it does get exiled. Otherwise, absolutely, because I think that's a really hot line.
I have a question. How many people are familiar with the spoilers from the new set? Because it seems to me, I was just now reading the ring and the things that emblem does. The second trigger is whenever your ring bearer attacks, draw a card, then discards a card. So if I'm not, I might be mistaken, but can you stack the Narset trigger underneath the discard so that you're able to cast the card you discard?
Oh god, I have to read this card. The ring temps.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Whenever your ring bearer attacks, Narset says attack. So they're the same. They're the same window, so you can stack them.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. So then you could discard the card, like discard a card from your hand. So I don't know if there are any cards that are actually good enough to bother including as more than like a one of in the set that can take the ring or whatever. But it seems like an interesting idea.
Interesting. Okay, well this should fit. This should grab any colorless options in theory. Okay. So immediate. That's usually what I do. So I mean, immediately, Birthday Escape is like the most neutral card. It's a sorcery for a blue. Draw a card. The ring tempts you, which gets you going, but it's not great. Bilbo is interesting, but he costs a lot of mana. I think I think Boromir is actually pretty decent here. 3/3 Vigilance for a human soldier. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. See you later, Force of Will. We're a Breach deck, so I like this. And then you can sacrifice some creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. The ring tempts you. If we have to make a risky block with Narset, which I don't know if we'll get in, it's interesting. It might be a bit too heavy on the cost, but I think it's an idea.
I mean, it's a 3/3 for 3 that stacks as other people's breach lines, so they can't go off, which gives you a chance to steal their breach pieces, which is pretty advantageous, I think. It also doesn't do the Lavinia thing where someone's like, well, I guess we lose the game because I can't Force of Will, because you just sacrifice the response, and then they get the chance to Force of Will.
Let's toss it into the pile. I do like the idea of this card here. That's interesting.
Are you milling yourself or your opponents? Okay.
After library round down, it's 5. So if we're able to string together 2,
so in theory, it's kind of like 5 mana. It's
pure.
Kind of pure
in
the Abyss.
I don't hate that idea.
So you have all the fuel.
I don't hate that. I think that's actually probably pretty strong. Huh.
Yeah, that seems. Yeah, it's definitely at least worth testing because that does seem really, really good.
Traumatize is a hot pick here. No, because it's basically that's just pure for this deck. We have if we have our Narset out and available, it curves well, so we can cast Narset on curve and then untap, play a land drop, and then Traumatize. And it pumps Narset up to 4, so it gets all of our 3s. So in theory, there's a number of ways that we're able to find Breach or get Breach or cast Breach. That I don't hate that idea. I think this is really good. I think I'm already gonna start like chewing out cards that I don't think work, because I think Traumatize is probably going to be one of our more consistent. It's a way for us to be able to convert our commander plus a singular tutor in a simplified game state into we are now winning the game, which I think this deck desperately needs.
Oh, I like it a lot actually, because it gives us a super strong hit off Glamdring. Actually, that's super because you can cast it from your hand.
Yes, that's sick. Okay,
gives you a super strong hit off Glamdring.
That's sick. I like that a lot. Okay. I'm not. Maybe suspend. Probably I don't want to cut suspend. I think I'll cut. I think Wind's Rebuke is probably one of our weakest removal spells. It's cute, but it's weak. I want to leave Pull from Eternity in there as far as I can. I like that. I like that text so much. We're still good on the Step Through package in line. It gets Emery. It gets Dual Caster.
If we're on Traumatize, I don't think we actually need.
I don't think we need Step Through. Yeah. Let's see. See the Truth. I think we either keep See the Truth or we keep
the card is a little.
Or we keep Ancestral Vision.
It's probably. I think
we keep one of these two. See the Truth or Ancestral Vision.
See the Truth is probably better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably better because otherwise you're gonna end up suspending visions and then someone will cast a Draenith Magistrate and you will be.
Yeah,
stuck.
I agree with that.
Yes, we should definitely put it Dress Down. I don't know how we missed that, actually.
We absolutely should. So let's put Dress Down in. I think if we do Dress Down in, we probably need to... I'm going to cut Suspend.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For that slot. I don't think we need it there.
So far, we got a Braid. We have the
Lightning Bolt,
Wrath Effect. We have Lightning Bolt, and then... we have a number of ways. We also have just, like... It's just one of those cards where it's like... the GT can kill it, and it's another one of those cards where it's just like, if it's in play, like worst case scenario, you just don't get attacked.
No, you can redirect the fire someplace else and not be worried. Although we're Jeskai, so in theory we shouldn't be getting attacked too much unless it's like equalized life totals, I guess.
Guys, you can slap Glamdring on it and you will get a guaranteed connect.
No. Okay, now that's tech.
It doesn't pump the toughness. It
doesn't. That's tech. That's good. It's walking, so it's Wincon walking or something like that. I don't know, wind walk. I'm just swag walking to victory. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm just swag walking. Okay, cool. So I'm at the fun point where like all of these cards, I'm like, man, can I just like sleeve this up right here and call it a day? Because I kind of want to do that already.
This is the hard part. Yeah, this is the part that sucks, where you're like, man, I have to cut all these cool cards. The Rector packages might be a little cute, so we can shave that out.
Let's drop the Rector. Do we want to drop Ascendancy then?
I don't think so. It's another just like incidental 2-card combo. It sees a lot of cards. I get the feeling it's going to see a lot of cards, and it gives us this in conjunction with Narset's prowess. Gives everything prowess, gives everything double prowess.
Very huge, very fast.
Yeah, it gives us the option to just like actually do combat damage, which is nice.
Atlas, talk me through Dance Battle again, or Dance of the Many.
This card does everything. It's Phantasmal Image, but we can cast it with Narset.
We are not on True Blue Phantasmal Image.
I don't think we necessarily actually need True Blue Phantasmal Image if we're on Dance. Yeah. Like, I don't think we actually need it because we have the Dance of Many. Yeah.
Special for E2,
but
yeah.
Dance Battle is going to provide additional utility in this deck because we can copy other people's creatures from the graveyard, which means we could, in theory, go copy, and this is going to sound weird, but it's because it's so prominent in the meta right now. We can copy someone else's Tivit, and then next turn, after we counter their Time Sieve, we can attack and cast their Time Sieve, and then win the game using the Tivit combo. Like, it sounds gimmicky, but I think it's actually going to be way more relevant than it actually...
I think it's a cool line that we have in our back pocket because we're on the card, and it synergizes so well with
if
the
it's
commander.
in your...
I think it's worth it.
If it's in your hand and you're pre-combat, you can go to combat, cast a consult effect, and then clone someone's Phantasmal Image. Or not someone's Thor.
I don't hate it.
It's gimmicky, but I think it's the one card in your deck where you're like, aside from Traumatize, where you're like, I'm gonna just snake a win with this.
Okay. Hold on. Excuse me. Let me toss an ad noise in here so I can see the curve real quick. I'm going to search again without... okay. So let's see. So our curve is currently 1.36, and we're six cards
curve,
over
right?
the curve. That's above the minimum where you want to be before you can start tossing.
I'm not a Nas player, but that seems like a pretty good curve, especially because people won't be punching us the same way that they punch in Nas.
We're gonna cut down on some of these cards still, so that curve is going to change a little bit. But talking to a resident Nas player, like 1.3 is about the maximum you want to be before you can like just kind of toss it in there. We can counter the Nas, and then we get to steal the Nas. Yeah, I like that. I don't think we need a build with that curve in mind, but I think it's an interesting like fact to like keep in our back pocket.
What do we think about what, Evan?
Bitter Reunion.
Oh, I think I was looking at that card actually. I think I was looking at that and I was like, this card seems kind of cool.
It was already sold on this card. It gives haste and fills our graveyard. This is literally everything we need.
It will. Yeah, I think that card is sweet. I was looking at that. I was like, I don't know, that might be too cute. But I think it's actually just a better version of what is the? No, not even Faithless Duty. The two.
I already cut
the.
Oh wait, no, Frill Possibility is in here. Yeah, hold on. Please.
Yeah, I think
please hold. We are cutting Frill Possibility, and we are adding this sweet new card. It's
icing on the cake.
It's very relevant because we can have a turn where like we like Jeweled Lotus our commander out and have like 1 mana available through other means, because casting a Jeweled Lotus into a 4 mana commander like this at 4 makes the mana just a little bit awkward. That it's awkward enough that it's in Bitter Reunion's favor, I think, most of the time.
Okay, not being a Nas or Breach player, I have a question for all you Nas and Breach players. Is Birgi worth running in this list, or is that too more Win?
That's Win-Mori. You don't lose this mana as steps and phases change. So, I mean, we do get to bank the mana that we cast with Birgi out, and it curves technically into Narset. My thing is, like, we're trying to breach, but we're not trying to storm, if that makes sense. And I think that's the requirement for Birgi. Yeah, and I think in that instance, I think the backside works pretty well for Birgi. But we're not trying to cast a critical mass of stuff. We're trying to assemble a game state where we're casting our specific things a lot of times, and if we're casting our specific things a lot of times, I don't think Birgi is necessary.
What are we at? We're at still
5 cards over still. Okay. Do we keep Seize the Day? Feels cute.
I actually, since we added Traumatize, I actually really like this card.
Yeah, because we just hack into it and we get... Okay, never mind. I'm sold. I'm back on it again.
Because this card casts Traumatize from the graveyard.
That is
so you can cast something.
It does.
Narset goes up, and then you can get her power up the second time.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Also, very inconveniently, all of our creatures are less than 3 mana. That means Sabine's Wreck gets back literally all of our creatures currently.
It gets back all of our permanents, actually.
It gets back literally every single permanent in this deck. That is a huge win. That is a very coincidental win. Read this card again.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
Sarah's Paragon. You may play a land from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell with CMC 3.
You can play the land, but it doesn't do anything under Dranith because you're still casting the spell from the graveyard.
Yeah, it doesn't do enough of the things, because I like this card but it doesn't play around Dranith in the way we want it to. To make it, I like the thought there, but it just doesn't do exactly what we need it to do. I think. Yeah. It's like, or if it is, it's like mono white. And at that point, if you're mono white, you're kind of taking whatever you can really get.
What do? I know you're super high on this card, but I don't know
Invasion
what
of
it does.
Obacan. There's a battlefield. Look at target opponent's hand. Exile non-land card from it for as long as the card remains exiled. It's only pay 2 for it. Spell cast this way costs 2 more. Backside at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that attacked this turn. Sacrifice itself.
This
card's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can just Thoughtseize twice. Yeah, that's actually kind of sweet.
And
I like it a lot.
Kind of. Also, the card that we exile off of this, we can pull from Eternity to prevent them from casting it again if we need them to avoid it. Pull from Eternity does not get cut from this list. Atlas, this is our Cloud Shift in the deck. We're not cutting this card ever.
I love. How dare you equate Cloud Shift to a meme card? Okay, Filter Out might be one of the cards that we need to look at, just like putting on.
Yeah,
hold.
I think it's a good card if we feel like the deck definitely needs it, but I don't know if we need it initially. Jessica's Will I like because it still at the very least lets us see 3 more cards. We might not get the we're not going to reliably be able to use the mana during combat because it'll just fade, but it'll let us see 3 more cards, which I think is worth it.
I think it's also just
good
because
just generically good in this deck. I
think
you
could just Ritual. You can use it as like a substitute for LED theoretically if it makes enough mana.
Yeah, true.
Especially if you're going under 3 Fairy, that card gets a lot better too.
True.
Because you don't care. You'll feed people cards so that it makes more mana.
True. I feel like our permission suite's really good. We probably need to be on Pyroblast, Red Blast, just because we're so anemic to.
No, we absolutely need to be on. I would cut Mana Drain for one of those two because it'll counter the counter spells and it blows up Ristic Studies that have landed that we can then recast.
Okay. No, I see that. I think because we're on a Breach deck and we're so hellbent on wanting to cast multiple spells in a turn to be able to win theoretically more than a couple of spells, that I think the requirement for these goes up significantly. Yeah, and we're also on delay. We're also on like every other like hard piece of counter magic. Like we're on Mindbreak Trap, we're on Force of Negation, we're on Fierce, we're on SWAT. Like I think we have enough ways to interact with the stack.
I'm actually not sold on Force of Negation.
You think
in this
so?
deck. Yeah, I mean it's super good, but we have.
Hold on. It
exiles the card.
I've made a crucial error. We're swapping in for Pact of Negation. I forgot to put that card in the list. That card needs to be here.
But yeah, Force of Neg exiles the card, as was just mentioned, and then it also like you can't use it to protect your own stuff, which is going to be kind of where the deck is needing to.
And that's I think
help.
where that line really stands. Thankfully, I remember the Pact of Negation was a card because that's just an easy 1-for-1 swap because Pact of Negation does everything that we needed to do, and we can continue to breach with it out and be protected. And it's also just generically good.
3 cards over. Okay, an easy swap, and we don't even have to treat this as a cut, but we could make an easy swap here. Since we've cut Rector already, the Jeskai Ascendancy package and Emery can disappear in favor of Displacer Kitten and the Invasion.
Okay, so Emery out, Jeskai Ascendancy out. Let's add in the Kitten and Invasion of Arcavios. Main deck, okay, and then so what are our 2 rituals? Do we want to be on 2 rituals? Because we're already on Strike It Rich, which is a pseudo ritual, so at that point we really need just like a Rite of. Okay, so in that case, do we want to go on something like? Do we want to go back onto like Rite of Flame then? Because if we're gonna put Invasion of Arcavios, I would like.
So we can cut Twin Flame. I don't think we need this card anymore.
If we're cutting Twin Flame, I think we cut Dualcaster then, right?
Not necessarily, because it gives you a harder lock on the board. If you're on Displacer Kitten, you now care about ETBs, and you only have one. You have 2 ETBs that you actually care about in the form of Invasion and Spellseeker. So while it won't combo with anything necessarily, it will give you the option to like to just lock out the board harder. Like someone casts a tutor and you're like, okay, in response I'll counter it and also I'll cast your tutor. Which is good. It also gives you some weird stuff where if you've landed both before and you go to an attack with Narset, you're casting the cards. So like if someone else has a Twin Flame in their graveyard, you attack, you cast it, so you can do the whole Twin Flame loop with the Lightning Bolt or whatever. Or if someone has a Saw in their graveyard, because red-black decks and weird 5-color players play that card.
Gross.
And, you can cast it, trigger, flicker the Dualcaster, and make copies, which just makes boards, which you'll have to have some other outlet, but like it does something.
That's
right?
true. No, I think that's ultimately a correct assessment of the situation. However,
actually, even if it's just like cast 2 demonic tutors,
that's still
totally
value enough. Like it still assembles our 2-card combo, or like puts Breach plus Protection in our hand. So I think there's value enough in that. If we are going on Kitten, like I said, it's a 3-mana it's a 3-mana counter spell that doesn't get countered.
It also not inconsequentially, it also protects you from other people's dual caster mage
True.
levels.
You can just snipe their saw in half.
You wait till they you wait until they finish declaring their loop. If it's a twin flame one, if they're going to be going to attacks, you just wait until they finish their loop, and then you flash it out in response to the last one. You just make more blockers than they have attackers.
So with all those changes, we're actually
that is relevant.
You have done it before, so it is a relevant thing to keep in mind. I also just like dual caster a lot. The card's really, really fun, and really, really good. I still want to go on another ritual, if we're doing Arcavios, just for an easy loop.
Well, if we're just looking for anything else that produces mana, I do think that Strike It Rich is still good, especially because we have a bunch of double blue pip spells, and it does. If you're just looking for something that can also go for the Arcavios loop, that card does it because it goes neutral. It goes infinite with Rite of Flame, and it goes neutral with itself. It also, if your Jessica's spells making 4 mana, it does the thing, and it can filter you into blue if you're making 5.
True.
Like,
okay.
I don't like Seething Song personally. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird.
We're not on dual caster because I like Seething Song. There's no payoff for it. Is the issue?
Yeah, there's no blast payoff. Like, I think the best thing you got going is Traumatize, which you also already might be just casting for free anyhow. So, Grinding Station. How do we miss Grinding Station?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's our secondary loop.
Oh, that's actually notable. Yeah,
we're gonna see oops in this deck. Notable. That's true. Okay.
Okay, yeah, so I'm sold. We can replace it with a Desperate Ritual.
Strike It Rich is gone, and then it's Pyretic, I think. You're the one that has the extra text on it. You are the one that has the extra text on Desperate Ritual. And it literally does not matter, but I always like when it comes to Desperate Ritual or Pyretic Ritual, I'm like,
it could casting stuff from other people's
theoretically could. Someone could have Agorio's Vengeance in their yard, and we might need a splice onto there. I don't know. It's like the only relevant thing I can think of that is arcane splice onto it.
Okay, so we're making Infinite Red, and we have a Lightning Bolt, so we have a post combat win. Okay, cool.
So that satisfies that. It just satisfies everything that a kitten deck needs without having access to black or green, because that was the biggest like hurdle with any deck that was playing kitten lines and wasn't on like a Sultai shell, basically. Is because Entomb and Ewit are so critical to the loop. It absolutely does.
True.
It absolutely does. Gitaxian Probe, I like too much. Good. I like it too much.
Yeah, we should keep that card for sure. Yeah. It's free. Great Probe is very good.
Yeah. Are we...
Gives you double
completely sold on Boromir?
Personally, yes. But also that's just...
No, me. I'll trust your judgment on that. Wheel of Fortune we need for kill. Yeah.
Yeah, and then if you need them to be able to force of will something, you just
it also stops Pact.
It also protects your Narset
Citadel.
If they're trying to blow it up.
Stops Citadel.
It does stop Bolus Citadel.
Which is relevant and I like.
It can just stop it does the thing where it's like, oh, we forgot about a stacks piece because it's weird and new, and someone noses into it and then has no fast mana.
Do we still want to stay on the counterbalance package? We're not on Rector anymore, so I'm a little bit less on counterbalance on top.
It's really
that's kind of where I'm at. I think if we kept the Rector package, I think I like it a lot more. I think because we cut the Rector, I don't think it's necessary anymore.
Oh, we need to add 3 Fairy before we forget.
3 Fairy. What is his suffix?
The
Time Rattler. Fierce Swat we absolutely stay on. Soul Protection we stay on. Delay is our main thing. Braid is good. Stubborn Denial I like. Tutors, yeah. Nope. Nope. It is Pull from Eternity does not leave this
that card is so good.
That card does not leave this list.
The card is so good. I promise it'll pay dividends when someone pitches something to their own force and you're like, I would like to cast that actually.
I don't know. I like Landring. I think we have a payoff.
I think it's worth testing. It's a new card. It's worth testing.
I think the only artifact the only enchantment we don't cut is Jita because this card's gas.
That card is very good and it kills Draneth Magistrates. It also pumps Narset. I did realize we're not on Grim Monolith, which if we're on the 3 Fairy loop, we probably want to be on in Jeskai just because it makes casting Invasion easier. It makes casting Displacer Kitten easier. So now we have to make 3 more cuts.
It's also
a grinding station piece.
Do we, if we're going up grinding station, do we go down Arcane Signet?
No, absolutely not, because it filters you into colors after your grinding station.
True. Well, we're on Mox Opal, so in theory we should also get that at some point as well.
Yeah, but You need the extra fixing though.
True.
Also, like Rite of Flame, you can do like a turn one land, Rite of Flame, Arcane Signet, turn one Ancient Tomb, Arcane Signet. Like it's just really good play patterns, especially in 3 colors. And we have a lot of 1 mana interactive spells
that we want to keep up. Yeah.
It's just going to be really nice to be able to cast it on turn 1.
I hear you. I am here for it. I'm down with it. See the truth?
Yeah, the card is looking kind of cute. It's a sorcery.
If it were an instant,
I'd still be hard set on it.
I think if we were on instant, down with it. It's not, so get out of here. Get Probe stays. Gamble, we're a breach deck. It stays. Please, go for it.
It'd be a bigger shame to miss something.
Maybe?
Let's do it. Sorcery count. So it'd be Traumatized. It could be J-Will, Brotherhoods, and Wheel of Fortune sees. Yeah, it is. I'm just looking at like what you could get. It's kind of neat because it synergizes that and Mystical Tutor both synergize really well with Grinding Station, where you can like put it on top, crack it, and then cast. You could like even just do it pre-combat and then cast it off of one other spell. So I don't hate that idea. I do think at this point, if we're gonna go up Personal Tutor, Seize the Day. Like it's just too much.
I think both
card.
Effects are going to accomplish what we're trying to.
Personal Tutor will be more consistent.
It will, because it also gets Sevin's Wreck, which in that instance, like I really like finding
Wheel. Gets a Brotherhood's End to clear the board. It's just better.
Yeah. No. Yeah. All right, get out of here. I don't hate Ragavan in this deck.
Ragavan is a good mana dork.
It's a good mana dork. Our commander pumps the monkey. I don't hate it.
All right, so we still got to cut 3 cards. At that point,
just keep growing.
We just cannot escape this cursed number.
103.
All right. Well, at this point now, Dualcaster might be packing too much, so we can get rid of that card. If we're adding Ragavan, Fairy Mastermind is looking a little goofy now. It just looks a little out of place in my opinion. Like I like it, but also
it's a wheel payoff, kind of.
Yeah, but we have to cut 2 cards.
That's true.
And I like Vega. We have Vega, which I think is going to be
this card
replaces what Fairy Mastermind was supposed to do.
I like Vega in this,
which is supplement draw.
Yeah, and I think that's where this deck's going to be really good, because if we're instigating action, we're inciting reaction from our opponents, which means Narset gets better. It means that their removal spells that they cast against our stuff, if we're able to land a Narset, we're able to wield against them. So I think being slightly more active, quote unquote, is going to be better for us in the long run.
Faithless Looting seems like it could probably come out because we went up Bitter Reunion. Oh, that's right, we are a breach deck. I am not used to playing this card. Yeah, but we had the bitter reunion was my thought. But yeah, I forget that we're a breach deck. We gotta have Slays to fuel our breach.
Yeah, it just fills the grave. Like on its own, it is a breach activation. At the very least, we can cast our Mana Crypt out of breach.
I guess it's 3 mana draw card off Vega too.
That's yep. Stubborn Denial is technically our weakest, but it's conditionally our best. I don't think we cut a braid here.
I think Chain of Vapor is the weakest one. Because we aren't a Nas deck, so we don't really need to rely on resetting our rocks a ton.
We're at 14 artifacts, 12 of which, 11 of which are rocks. We are on Ragavan plus 2 rituals.
An Esper
Sentinel.
27 lands wouldn't be the end of the world.
I think we can make 27 work.
We can at least test it, because our curve is like pretty low. We don't need to do a lot. We're just developing and then countering things in the early turns. So, and our commander, once we get her down, should in theory allow us to break parity, especially if like someone else casts a Soul Ring. We could abrade their Soul Ring and then cast it. Things like that.
All right, so that's the deck. Now we'll start filling in all of the lands. Generally, what I like to do for lands is I usually just get all of the rainbow lands and then all of my fetchables, and then kind of just fill in from there. Like it's pretty straightforward. I usually build everything even color distributed wise in the beginning, and then afterwards I shift the cards around once I view the overall list. Yeah. I think we're on Tarnished Citadel 100% of the time. We are on. Do we care enough about like Forbidden Orchard? We play it. I think we play it.
I don't know. I really like Forbidden Orchard because I can't count the number of times where it's like not even Timna, but someone's like, "I'm going to attack this person." And I was like, "Very well. They have a blocker. I will give you another blocker. Please block this card that we both dislike." And they're like, "Okay," and they kill their dork and the token to go get rid of like an opposition agent or something, and it just like unlocks me for literally nothing. All right, we said we're playing 27 lands, not 26?
27 lands.
I would like to suggest Hall of the
Bandit Lord. I was gonna say, I think we can afford
one cute land to attest it at least, just because I do think she has one colorless pip. Giving her haste seems like it could be strong. It's like your turn 1 land or whatever.
I think I like it more than I like a Triumph, because I don't think we can afford a Triumph in this deck. I think we have enough turn 1 plays that we want to be not Triumphing on turn 1. All right, well, that is the list. We're on 27 lands, which I think is going to be just fine. Everything looks pretty much in order. I mean, I feel like we cover a lot of the decent areas that we need. Our counterspell suite is very comprehensive. Our removal suite is very hefty. Our game plan is pretty resilient. I really like the Traumatized line. I did not think of that initially, and that is very, very sick.
Yeah, that is a gas
We're also on Displacer Kitten, because of course we're going to be on Displacer Kitten. I think there are very few cards in here that I'm, like, overly suspect on, except for, like, I guess technically Glamdring and Boromir, just because they're new cards, so I'm a little bit hesitant on those, but even still, I feel like we got some really cool stuff in here. Also, like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, Pull from Eternity is insane.
This card is very good
in this deck. It's actually nuts.
Have you wanted 3 Ristic Studies?
You can get that. Do you want to attempt your 1 Breach 3 separate times? Because you're gonna be able to.
Yeah, the card is very, very, very good. I think Boromir is going to play out just fine, actually. The card that I am most sus about is Glamdring, which I think in theory should be really, really good, especially since you can, like, slap someone with Narset or, like, our Ragavan or a Dragon's Rage Channeler or whatever, and cast the Traumatize that you just personal tutor to the top last turn. Like, I think it's gonna be really strong.
No, I think it is. The only thing that, like, in my heart that I miss is, man, I wish we were on, like, some other extra combat thing. I was thinking about, like, Combat Celebrant earlier. I don't know if I like it in this list anymore.
I think unless we find that we need to cast more than 1 extra spell per turn, I don't think it's actually the extra combats will contribute.
And I think that's like a trap that I fall into a lot. Is I want to put all these, like, cool synergy cards in here that give me more of the effect. But if the deck we're building is built to take advantage of the one thing that we're doing consistently anyway, then we don't necessarily need to double up. And we're not doubling up in, like, meaningful ways. Like, the effects that we'd be throwing in aren't cheap enough, or the upside isn't big enough that I think it's worth the slot. And I think that's where, like, that favor starts tipping.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
It's what Displacer Kitten does. It just makes everything that you do just insanely value.
Good card.
Very good card. And, like, there are ways that we can, like, pivot out from, like, breach lines. I don't know if you're ever doing that, but it could be relevant.
I think all of them are useful enough in their own right, where it's like, at its worst, Displacer Kitten's going to be a ritual card. It's going to basically be the blue equivalent of that dwarf with Magecraft. At its worst, Invasion's going to be, it's going to be another copy of Personal Tutor, where you're like, I'm going to put this Traumatize in my hand. You guys better have an answer next turn. I'm going to get you. And Teferi is, of course, just another Silence that bounces a stack piece.
Or it's literally just Force of Will or Pact of Negation.
Yeah, so anything like that too. Also, Narset can kill the battle really, really easily, which makes all of our control magics
it is 7. We're probably swinging in for this a decent amount of time. Like, very few things are blocking this card, especially because it's hitting for 4 most of the time if we get the trigger off. So this dies in 2 combats, which puts it in range of, like, well, this is theoretically possible.
Yeah, I have played this card in Teferi Chainveil, and frequently getting a Ledger Shredder to, like, 3 or 4, or hitting it with a Consecrated Sphinx. Like, you only need to hit it twice. You only need to have a creature that can attack it twice. And frequently people don't even bother blocking for them because they just want to keep their mana dork or whatever around, which, if you're at the point where you want the backside of the invasion, they should be sacrificing their mana dork to protect
100%,
it. Like,
100%.
Yeah.
I did want to double check our ad Nas curve. I'm just gonna punt out. I'll just
no, don't change it. It doesn't
exactly
count
1.3. So we're at the very maximum for, like, an all kind of right Nas curve. So in theory, we can snipe someone's Nas and be kind of all right. I feel like we're just gonna, like, it's a cool thing, but, like, we can go decently deep on a Nas, I think, if we really want to. I want to test this list. This list looks really, really good. It does all the things.
I will be playing this list as soon as Lord of the Rings comes out. I'm going to be playtesting this.
Absolutely. No, I think that this it hits all the notes for me to care about, in that, like, we're running weirdo cards that I think are really good, but it's also balanced out with, like, very solid theory, very foundationally good win conditions. It satisfies mine and Atlas's mutual agreement that we run 0 bad cards. Yeah, there are very few cards in here that I feel like are going to be awful to draw at most stages of the game.
Honestly, I feel like the one that's going to feel the worst to draw is going to be Invasion, and just because you won't have the mana to cast it.
But if you get to the point where you can cast it, you are in such a good position. Shit, we forgot Cyclonic Rift. I totally forgot about that.
Oh no!
Thank you. I don't think we cut Ragavan. I want to cut Ragavan. I don't like cutting Darcy here.
Why would people want to cut Darcy over Ragavan?
I think I agree with that. I feel like if we were,
I could see that as like just testing the cut. Yeah. I see no
I
reason
think
not to test the cut.
I think if we were more on like the no, we're only doing our game plan type deal, then Darcy gets better. I think you hit it right with like we're playing a lot of like reactive stuff. Darcy's cool, but it's not going to matter too much until we're breaching.
Oh, and I did actually come up with a thought about the combo pieces with Kitten being untutorable. Is that's actually not the case, because if anyone casts a black tutor at any point during the game, we can now tutor for whatever the Kitten is. Like because we can cast from other players' graveyards. So someone casts a demonic tutor on turn 3 to go get their Adnaz. Great, we hold up a counter spell for their Adnaz and we go cast a demonic tutor and get Displacer Kitten instead. Or if we don't have the counter spell, then we go get the counter spell with their demonic tutor, and then we can just draw Displacer Kitten. Like I think there's a lot of, because our commander just allows us to cast other people's spells, it is basically just like a very slow meme betrayal. I think that consistency is going to make it easier to tutor up win conditions too, which has always been one of Jeskai's weakest points.
A small optimization is, since we don't care about killing our own Rector, do we still want to stay on Brotherhood's End, or do we want to hop to like a different Pyroclasm effect? I think the deck wants a Pyroclasm effect. I think this deck really likes that. I'm just not convinced it's Brotherhood's End.
I'd love to see an instant speed one instead.
So delay last.
What is it? Rift Sweep?
Cinderclasm?
Like that. Yeah, that thing. Well, if Narset's out, none of our 2 toughness creatures are going to get hit by the Classum anyways, because of the
in which case, only our 1 toughness creatures are vulnerable.
In which case, we only have 2, which is Esper Sentinel and Ragavan. And if we really need to worry about conserving like an Esper Sentinel or something, we're on GT, so theoretically we could just equip the GT to them and pump it before doing the thing. Or we're a breach deck. It goes to the graveyard. That's not bad.
Yep. A thought came to mind, although I don't think it's super duper necessary. I don't think we need a haste enabler, right? Because my thought...
We have a land, we have an enchantment. The only other one, in my opinion, that would be worth playing would be Lightning Greaves.
Really?
But I don't know what you would cut for that.
I guess it makes sense. It's one of the best ones that we can get off of Narset. It's a 0 mana haste enabler.
It would be Lightning Greaves or Need for Speed, because it can sacrifice all your lands to the graveyard.
Which is a breach, yeah. Oh, I'll put Need for Speed in the considering.
I don't
think
know.
it's necessary.
The Greaves protects Narset, and it also makes it so that you could give something else haste later without sacrificing a land. It feeds your artifact count for Mopal. But I don't think you really need to play it. I definitely think Narset is not one of those commanders that is shoot on sight. I don't think you're gonna have to worry about someone going, man, I'm gonna burn my Path to Exile or my Swords of the Plowshares on Narset turn 1 because she just landed.
Correct.
Like, she's one of those things where if you land her early, she might not even generate you that much value at the beginning of the game. So there's no reason for people to waste removal. And at mid to late game, there are going to be way more impactful things that people need to remove.
Yeah. My thinking with the haste enabler is like, if we're kitten looping, a haste enabler gives us a way to swing at people pre-combat for the win. Because all of our creatures are prowessed, we can swing with the whole team and kill the table. It's just another way to victory. Is just my reason. But if we're kitten looping, we can just. If
you have kitten looping, you can start the loop bolt.
Yeah, we just loop bolt.
Yeah, or post combat you loop bolt, or brain freeze. If you just build storm count and brain freeze everyone out and cast a wheel. Like, there are a lot of ways to get there.
We cut the Striker Rich, so we don't have a way to filter red. But I don't think that matters. Yeah, no, it was one of the more niche scenarios that I was thinking up. The only other one I was like maybe considering is like Anger, because it's quote unquote free, but I think Need for Speed is better in that instance. Okay, cool. I think that shores up a lot of the things. I can't believe we forgot.
I think that just about ties it together.
I can't believe we fucking forgot about Cyclonic Rift until the very end. That's impressive.
I just slipped my mind.
It's one of the things about not doing like the package thing. It's just like, oh yeah, sometimes you just forget like the staple of all staples. All right, well, I think this is a pretty spicy brew, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, I'm really excited to give this a shot next week after the Lord of the Rings
Yeah,
set
2
comes
weeks
out.
for that. Yeah,
2 weeks.
it's like the
Gross.
23rd or something. All right, well, cool. I'm happy with where this list is.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Thank you everyone for all of the input and all of the
Yeah, no, a
assistance.
lot of this was
Yeah, definitely couldn't have put this
this was a
together
good
without you.
time. I don't think I would have come up to the traumatized tech.
I would never have
Yeah.
been considered by me.
All right, well, that is actually gonna do us. I think decks wrapped up. I think I've covered everything that I want to cover on this deck. This deck looks sick.
Oh yeah,
Atlas,
very excited. No,
All
I'm
right.
good. Once again, thank you everyone for
Yes,
all of the
absolutely.
input.
Thank you to everybody who joined us this evening. This was a lot of fun. I think we brewed something pretty cool.
All right, have a good night,
All right,
everybody.
catch you later.